Hey guys, you're watching QDCrafts, and today I'll be showing you how I made these DIY fidget cubes using Perler beads and a few materials that you can get right at home. Whether you like these fidget toys or you find them really annoying, I just made these for fun and I wanted to see if I could actually make one using Perler beads. I think these turned out alright, and I have to say that it was pretty fun trying to design the mechanisms for the functions on each side of the cube, and this project definitely challenges your Perler beading and assembling skills. If you hate these things, well, I'm sorry, but if you actually find these things helpful or fun, then don't forget to leave a thumbs up, and let's start with all the materials you'll need. The top of the list should be all the fuse bead supplies. Art Cow or Perler are the brands of beads I use. You'll also need a round and square pegboard, ironing paper, and an iron. I also used an X-Acto knife with a cutting surface, wire clippers, and a hot glue gun. And lastly, I used a spring from a broken pen, a paper clip, toothpick, rubber band, and marble. Here are the designs for the 6 sides of the cube that took me around 10 minutes to place the individual beads onto the pegboard. It's the same template that I've been using for all my Minecraft figureheads, so this may look familiar to some of you who've seen my older videos. I chose a very basic gray and orange combo, but you can choose whatever colors you like, and don't be shy to show me what color combos you pick. To iron, I set my iron at 3, which is the polyester setting, and I placed a piece of parchment paper on top of all of the pieces. Some of you may be more comfortable using the masking tape method, which I highly recommend, but I just wanted to do this quicker, so that's why I ironed everything on the board. The moment that you see an imprint of all the fused beads on the parchment paper, then you know that that side is done, and once the other side is fused as well, you just have to wait for all the pieces to cool down. These are how the beads look after ironing. You can still see the little holes quite clearly, and now I'm just assembling all the pieces into a cube. So this is the main structure of the fidget cube, and this side is just the bottom of the cube that also has the function of making a bead clicking noise that some of you apparently find very satisfying. The next function that I'm demonstrating here on my prototype cube is the circle spinner. This is really easy. You just need to assemble a circular bead piece, fuse it, and then get a toothpick to stick it through the middle of the circle and then through the middle of the gray piece. You may have to loosen up the space between the fused beads to get the spinner to move smoothly, but once you secure the pieces together, that's all there is to it. I got some clippers to cut off the excess wood, and then I sanded the sharp end smoothly so that it doesn't irritate my thumb when I spin it. Snap the piece back into place, and this is the completed spinner side. Now I'll be building the joystick side, so I'll need this piece, and then I made an orange ring and a plus sign shaped piece. The plus sign will go on top of the ring and then onto the gray piece, but first I glued the orange pieces together using some hot glue. To attach the orange piece to the gray piece, I cut a rubber band, threaded it through the middle of the orange piece, back through another bead, and then tied a knot. By the way, I got the idea of using a rubber band from a video that I will link below. Then the other end of the rubber band goes through the gray piece, and I tied a knot again to keep that in place. And now the orange piece is able to move in a similar motion as a joystick switch. To make the ball roller, I have to use this piece, an extra square and circle piece, and we can't forget the marble that will sit perfectly tight in the gap. Glue the circle onto the square, check that the marble doesn't fall through the square frame, and then glue this onto the main gray piece. I don't know if kids even play with marbles anymore, but this is a fairly standard sized glass marble that shouldn't be too hard to find, so maybe get a huge bag of marbles from the dollar store just so you can find the perfect one. Next up is the switch, and you'll need to get an extra bead and a paper clip. The orange rectangle will have to be cut out from the gray piece so that it can fit precisely back into it later on. So whatever color you want your switch to be, make sure that it is fused together with the gray beads for this to work. I carefully cut the rectangle out using my X-Acto knife on both sides. And now you can see how the rectangle piece moves smoothly between the gray beads. Then I took a single bead and glued it onto the middle of the switch. This acts as a pivot point that will allow the switch to move like a seesaw. Then I unwound the paper clip and cut a small rod from it. The rod can then go through the hole in the single bead and be glued onto the gray beads using hot glue. That's it. Now you can flip the switch, and it also makes a loud enough clicking noise that sounds really nice. Finally, this is the last side of the fidget cube, and it's also not too hard to assemble. This side features rollable beads and a little button that you can press. Here are all the pieces you'll need, and similar to the side with the switch, the square button is fused with the gray beads and will need to be cut out using an X-Acto knife. Next, I'm taking these 1x2 pieces and gluing them near the button. Then I put a small dot of glue on the middle of the button to attach the spring. The spring will probably be too long, so I took my clippers and cut the spring so that it's around the same length as the 1x2 pieces. Then I took the rectangle piece and glued it onto the spring and the other two pieces so that this allows the spring to be able to push down onto a surface. Last but not least, for the rolling beads, you'll have to cut out a strip of 4 beads to create a space for the beads to go into. After that, you have to clip off a rod from a paper clip again, and its length should just touch the outside of the space you just cut out. You can fit 3 beads onto the rod, and once you glue each side of this rod onto the gray piece, this side of the cube is done. Snap this piece back with the rest of the sides, and this is my completed DIY Perler Bead Fidget Cube. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. This fidget cube has 7 things for you to play with. You can spin, flip, roll, press, roll again, glide, and click. I don't think I fidget often, so this whole wave of fidget toys is not something that I'll really understand, but after making this cube, I can kind of see why people would like to play with this. I guess maybe when they're thinking about something or just contemplating their life decisions, they can fidget while they're doing it. As always, it's really fun for me to create these things that I never thought I could create using these plastic beads, so if you'd like to see more, then don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time with another QDCraft.